The book is out tomorrow, and it's interesting when you see the front of it there. I survived, I married a charming man, then he tried to kill me. Let's speak to Victoria now about that. Victoria, what does it feel like to realise that this happened to you, that there were at least 2 murder attempts on your life, not just from anyone, but from the man you loved, the man you married, the man who was the father of your children? What is that like to take in?
It took several years, really, for it to all sink in, and the long court process. It's soul-destroying, really. It's one of the hardest things I think you can get your head around, that the man you loved and had children with wanted to kill you and put both children in harm.
Why did he want to kill you?
From what I can gather, it was for money, for my life insurance.
And that was because he had run up a lot of debt, hadn't he, and taken out loans in your name. How much did you know about that side of his life?
After we were married for about a year or so, that started creeping in, the money concerns, borrowing money, buying things on loans, starting to get letters through. So I was aware of it. He did start by paying everything off, but gradually money started disappearing out of my account. I felt like I was always bailing him out, and it started escalating. And that was the main cause of friction.
The thing I don't understand is, right, so he wants to kill you, but the attempts that I read about in the book, one is tampering with your gas line, and the other one was tampering with your parachute, and you're a parachute instructor as well. He was never going to get away with it.
I think he has the type of personality where he thought he would. He was almost untouchable. And he had a new girlfriend, wanted to set up a new life with her. And I think I just got in the way, ultimately.
So tell us about that day, Victoria, because you had only recently had a baby, your son, your second child. So people might be thinking, why were you even contemplating doing a parachute jump on that day?
I'd started jumping again about 4 weeks after my daughter was born, because they were both straightforward births. I think anyone that's involved in the sport knows that actually physically it's not that strenuous. And Emile had come up with the idea that we did a jump together, and I was just happy that he was considering doing something sort of as a pair, and that he was thinking of me, because things had really gone wrong in the marriage at that point. And so I was excited that he was thinking of me, really.
So he decides to tamper with your parachute, and he gets the opportunity to do that. Not just one parachute, but 2 parachutes, your backup parachute as well. The investigators surely would have found that out, that they had been interfered with.
I think it's very hard to prove, because the slinks that were removed were never found. And you can make it look like it's a normal malfunction, certainly the main parachute. The reserve, once they realised the slinks were missing, because they couldn't find them, it was quite hard to pin that on a specific individual.
Right, so talk us through. You jump, as I understand, the height you jump from is 3,000 feet?
Yeah.
Right, that's a pretty long way, but yet a pretty short way, I'm sure, when you're falling, when you're hurtling to the ground. What goes through your mind, or talk us through when you realised, oh, this is not right?
With the main parachute, it was twisted, and it's one of those things that you deal with on a regular basis as a skydiver. But once I got rid of the twist, it still didn't look normal. I wasn't happy with it. And you got that slight sinking feeling, I'm going to have to cut this away. But again, not any particular fear, because it's something I've done before. But you expect, as soon as you cut away your main, that immediate jolt and slowing down of the reserve opening quickly. But that didn't happen. As soon as I cut away, I started spinning, and then realised it was full of twists. And that's when your heart rate starts going up a bit more. Got rid of the twist, thinking that was the problem. And then as soon as I did that, it got a lot worse, and I started spinning. And then the focus is just on trying to rectify the situation, try and slow down the spin. You're not really aware of the ground or what height you're at that point.
What over what time period are we talking about? As you're dropping, how much time from leaving the aircraft to hitting the ground?
It was probably a couple of minutes, I'd have thought.
I can't even imagine. I mean, I understand as an instructor, you're thinking practical things. What can I do? Can I untwist this? At what point, though, Victoria, did you realise this is not happening? I have no parachute. I'm hurtling to the ground. What or who went through your mind at that point?
I never considered the fact that I wasn't going to succeed. I was very aware of the fact that I had a baby and a toddler at home that I needed to get back to. And so just giving up wasn't an option. I had to keep fighting, trying to slow it down.
Do you remember hitting the ground and what did that feel like?
I just remember a bang and everything going black. And I'm not sure, because I was spinning so fast, if I lost consciousness because of the G-force or if that was me actually hitting the ground.
And what were your injuries, Victoria?
I broke my pelvis in lots of places, several spinal fractures, most of my ribs on one side, bleeding in my lung. They were the main ones.
You obviously still thought at this point this was just a malfunction with not just one parachute, but your backup parachute too. At what point did you think, or were you told, that it was your husband, Emile, who had possibly tampered with your equipment?
It was about three weeks later. So I'd been home a couple of days. Emile went to work and never came home. And I got a knock on the door roughly at the point I expected to see him. And it was the police saying that they'd arrested him for suspicion of attempted murder. And that's when you just feel like your whole world's falling apart around you.
So when you say to yourself, why, do the answers become apparent? Does it become obvious as to why?
No, not at that point. I couldn't get my head around the fact that he would even contemplate doing such a thing. So I was in denial.
Right, so he goes to court, there are 2 trials, he's eventually convicted, he goes to prison. Why do you visit him in prison?
I had so many questions, the main one being why, and all the suspicions I'd had over the years. I had a whole page of questions I wanted to ask him. And I thought, I suppose, that I may get some answers. I wasn't allowed to take in questions into the prison. But I didn't really get the clarity or the answers that I wanted.
Well, your husband, Emile, was quite clear. When you were visiting him in prison and you bring in divorce papers, he actually says to you, no, our marriage isn't over. There's still a future for us.
Yes, and he wrote to my solicitor essentially saying that. And it's taken 18 months of fighting between my solicitor and him to get to, we got a decree nisi last week.
We talk a lot about, on this show, Victoria, about coercive control, and it's something that, hadn't been recognised before. Do you believe that that was what had happened to you with Emile from when you very first met him? You had a whirlwind romance to him trying to kill you. Do you think there was an element of control there? Yes,
completely. And actually writing the book made it a lot more obvious, because you're in chronological order, you're going through the issues or the concerns or little niggles at the back of my mind, that actually it all starts making sense. That, yes, slowly and gradually I was being manipulated and abused mentally.
Is there a new Victoria Cilliers that has emerged after all of this? Because I'm just wondering how you move on with your life, how you trust anyone again.
I think complete trust, 100% trust, is going to be a big ask. I think the focus over the last few years has been on me and my children and just building our own family unit. And looking to the future, I don't want the things that have happened in the past to influence my future now. So I try to draw a line under it and just move forward almost into a different life, being happy with myself and the children.
You did eventually get your divorce. Do you have any contact with Emile?
No. No, I haven't for about 18 months.